I don't understand this, but Europeans are a bit stupid, aren't they? Europeans are a bit stupid. I mean, let's be honest, like just a tad, right? Just a tad. I mean, let's be honest about this, because I don't understand why we have to put the bar so friggin' low in Europe when it comes to such things as democracy and stuff. I mean, honestly, we always say that Europe is very democratic, very honest, very free, but is it really? Is it really? No, it isn't really. Not really. I've already said this before and I'll say it again. It isn't really. Because in essence, I was reading up on some history the other day, because I like reading history, you know. I like knowing what happened, and I like the stories that are told, and I like seeing the parallels with then and now. And there are plenty of parallels, because it's amazing. I was reading up on history about the Soviet Union. And what I found out was that the way the Soviet Union was run is very much exactly the same as the way that the European Union is run. Now, my question to you is, did you think that the Soviet Union was a democracy? And for that matter, do you think that the People's Republic of China, which is run in the same way, is a democracy? No, I don't think you would admit that. I don't think you would say that. But at the same time, the European Union is run in exactly the same way as the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China. Some explanation, perhaps. All right. The thing is, the Soviet Union and also the People's Republic of China are run in this way. There was a People's Congress, yeah, that's what it was called, the People's Congress, which was not really for the people. It was basically just the Communist Party. Communist Party Congress. They elected from their midst, apparently, something called the Central Committee. It was basically the committee that ruled the Communist Party. And from the Central Committee was then elected or picked out or chosen or whatever the Politburo, the political bureau. And this Politburo were the actual rulers of the Soviet Union. They were the ones who had all the power. Now you can see that this is not really a democratic process, right? Because the People's Congress wasn't for the entire people, it was just for the Communist Party, all right? The Central Committee itself chose the members of the Politburo, rather than the Politburo actually being elected directly by the people of the Soviet Union, or even the members of the People's Congress. So that wasn't democratic at all, in the same way as how it happens in communist China. Where they literally have the great leader who combines pretty much all the major policy-making positions in the People's Republic of China. And the same way works in Europe. In Europe, the EU, we have the national governments, yeah? And in principle, the national governments elect the European Council. However, in practice, we see that the European Council is only made up out of the heads of state or the heads of government, specifically, of the national governments. So there is not a one-on-one democratic link there, because it's only part of the national government which represents their country in the European Council. And we've seen, for instance, also in the Netherlands, that those national governments have a tendency to do their own thing and not really, explain anything to their parliaments back home. So basically the home parliaments are completely sidelined, just like the population of the Soviet Union was sidelined out of the People's Congress. So the people of the European countries who have elected their own parliaments are sidelined out of the European Council, because the European Council is de facto the same as that Central Committee of the Soviet Union. They're basically a vague Central Committee who do things, who make decisions, and nobody knows what decisions they make, because it's all behind closed doors, it's all secret. There's no openness, transparency about anything, and they pick out who the members of the Commission will be, the European Commission. And including the European President or the Presidents, the European Presidents, the President of the Commission, and the President of the Council, they pick them out. So you can see that there is no real democratic link between those levels. Not really, it's very tenuous. And I hear lots of people, when I bring this up, I hear lots of people saying, but yeah, Europe is democratic because we vote for the European Parliament. and the European Council and the European Commission are all voted in, quote unquote, indirectly, and indirectly is clearly good enough, right? But I don't think it's good enough. It's very tenuous, and you see, for instance, that the European Parliament also has very little real power, very little, and that's the point. This is simply not good enough for me. It's not good enough. The bar is too low. If we really want Europe to be democratic, if we really believe that Europe should be democratic, then it should actually be 100% democratic. It should not be tenuous. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. No, that should not be the way it is. No, it should be full-on democratic. It should be we directly elect the people who rule the EU. We directly elect the European Commission. We directly elect. We do not go through layer, and we hope that what we want down there is somehow translated up there, like, I don't know, you could call what trickle up politics, right? Just like you had trickle down economics, which didn't work either. Now in the EU we have trickle up politics, but of course things do not trickle up, and we see this. We see this because there is no real democratic control over the EU. The European Commission can do whatever the hell they really want to do. The central bank as well, they keep on coming with these weird-ass plans for the digital euro and stuff like that, which nobody wants. Nobody wants, but still. There we go. We see that there is no break on these ideas. We see that there is no break on these plans. The same thing with the digital and digital transition, for instance, where everything has to be electric. Everything has to be electric, even though we do not have the power to power any of this, because our electricity grid is simply not capable of dealing with this. And even though electric cars, for instance, are not the best solution, because it makes us more dependent on heavy metal producers and rare earth producers and rare metal producers, which is mostly China. Mostly, yeah. I mean, the fact, for instance, that hydrogen, just to name an option, is completely sidelined in Europe. Just because, well, we can see that some lobbying has been going on here, right? And this is why we see that, for instance, European car manufacturers have completely crashed. They are like literally crashing right now. Why? Because of the economic policies implemented by that European Commission. It's as simple as that. And I have to ask you, would this have happened if the European Commission had been directly elected, as should happen in a real mature democracy? Probably not. Probably not. So this is something to think about. Why do we say that the Soviet Union was undemocratic? Why do we say that the People's Republic of China is undemocratic? But why at the same time do we then say that the EU is democratic, even though it's run in pretty much exactly the same way as the Soviet Union and China is being run, right? Can you explain this to me? I don't think so. And this is the point. The bar is too low. The democratic bar in Europe is too low. And this is something that we're gonna need to fix. Now, don't forget to give a thumbs up to this. Don't forget to subscribe, because these things are actually kind of important, you know. These are kind of important. And it's only the future of our entire continent that we're talking about here, you know. It's no biggie, but you know, but you know. So don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like, and see you next time.